I'm 2 months post a divorce, so it's pretty fresh. But I've done a lot of processing, and I'm at the point where I've taken my own advice I'm going to give today, and I look back at it as a success, and I look back at splitting and divorcing as a success. So both things can be true, right? You don't have to say, oh, I failed, therefore I'm divorced. Oh, it didn't work, therefore I'm divorced. It could be like, that was a good thing for then, and for now, this is the right thing.
This is episode number 618. I can't believe it, with Bobbi Palmer. She is a returning guest. We are so excited to have her on. I think this is your third time, maybe, Bobbi?
Oh, sounds right.
But it's been a while, and we're going to talk about how to begin dating again after divorce. This is a really important topic. So many people come to my Facebook group and they're like, I haven't dated in 25 years and I don't know how to start. And so for anybody who's been in a long-term relationship, it doesn't even have to be divorce. Just how do you get back out there again? This is a really important topic. Hi, everybody. I am Sandy Weiner. I am so excited to welcome you back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date and to support you on your journey to lasting love or to find love in any way. I've written 2 books. The first is called Becoming a Woman of Value: How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this book I wrote because I was struggling to thrive after my divorce. And I discovered 30 different ways that helped me. And I now wanted to share that with the world, and how you show up in the world, how you speak up, how you communicate who you are and live an empowered life. So this isn't just for people who are dating, it's really for anybody. And the second book is Choice Points in Dating. This is a book that came out Valentine's Day of 2023. And I wrote that book because so many people feel that they're out of choice, that they don't have choices in who they date, how long to stay, that the way that you grew up. It's not, I don't have a choice in how I approach dating because of my history. And I'm here to tell you that we have choices. And this book really outlines how you think about dating, how you date. It's a real guidebook for dating and figuring out who to stay with and who to leave and how to go on your last first date. So you can find both of these books on Amazon for Kindle or paperback, and Choice Points is now also available as an audiobook. And every week I share a tip from the Woman of Value book. This week's tip is step number 25, which is know when to say yes. We often say yes to the wrong things and no to the right things. And so I want to encourage you to say yes to new opportunities, to getting out of your comfort zone, to dating again after divorce, to doing things that freak the hell out of you, because that is how we grow. And so my challenge to you this week is to say yes to something that makes you really uncomfortable. Before I bring Bobbi on, I just want to invite you to join my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date. If you're not yet a member, go over there after our podcast today, because this is a group that is supportive, safe, and sane. Very rare to find that in the dating space. There's a lot of groups out there that are unsupported, unsupervised. They just allow a lot of negativity, and that does not help you at all. It may feel good in the moment, but it's actually quite cancerous, in my opinion. And so this is a heavily moderated group. We have 7 amazing monitors who monitor every single day of the week. And I come on there and share lots of special material that I don't share anywhere else. So join us at Your Last First Date. And now for my amazing guest, Bobbi Palmer. She is a 60-something, happily divorced, proudly imperfect, sometimes sassy, progressive thinking, animal and man-loving, internationally recognized dating coach for women over 40. That is a lot of words to say.
You could breathe.
I know, I have to breathe. I love it. It's all good stuff. And she's known as the compassionate truth teller. She has helped thousands of women around the world write their own grown-up love story. Welcome back to the podcast, Bobbi.
I'm so happy to be here, Sandy.
Well, thank you. So
I changed that little piece, proudly divorced. Used to be happily married.
Oh,
so here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't we get right into it now that we're mentioning it, because this is a fairly new occurrence. Bobbi was married for 18 years, right?
Yep.
To a man who, if you look at her website, he's still in there.
All over the
This
place.
was this was your kind of your story, and now you have a new story. So tell us what happened and a little background.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I was married 18 years. I was married for the first time at age 47. So I'm 65 now. And we met online, match.com, still works. We met online and we got married within 6 months of meeting. And we had a pretty good run. We had a good run. We had some really good times. We did a lot of traveling. We had fun together. We moved from the United States to Mexico together, where I am now. I've been living in Mexico for about 7 years. And yeah, there were good times. And then I think as we aged and when we moved, our desires changed for the future. I won't get into details, Sandy, because I we could just do an hour on why I think he's a shit, but we won't do that. Um, but I think what's important to share is, and we'll talk about it, during this time, is that I'm 2 months post a divorce. We separated about 8 months ago, so it's pretty fresh. But I've done a lot of processing and I'm at the point where I've taken my own advice I'm going to give today. And I look back at it as a success. And I look back at splitting and divorcing as a success. So both things can be true, right? You don't have to say, oh, I failed, therefore I'm divorced. Oh, it didn't work, therefore I'm divorced. It could be like, that was a good thing for then, and for now this is the right thing too. And anyway, so that's where I am. um and there were hard times. We were in therapy for about a year. I tried really hard, let's just say that. And he's 74 years old. He kind of regressed back to high school and wanted to just have fun in Mexico and drink tequila and party, and that wasn't what I wanted in my life, just only that. So he's having fun. He still lives here. That's a bummer, but I'm hoping that he moves. Other than that, it's all good. We get along fine.
Yeah, I mean, you were together
Also,
for 18 years, and I love that you say that the whole thing is a success. I think that a lot of people have regrets. They feel that divorce is a failure. I think leaving the wrong person is a success.
yeah.
I think staying with the wrong person is not good. It's not healthy. And so many people are afraid to leave. It takes courage and it takes some self-awareness, and it's you have to be brave to go back out there. And I talk to people every day who are in bad marriages, and they don't even know why they're staying half the time. A lot of times, I had one friend, I don't talk to her anymore, but she just complained every single time. Can you believe this? Can you believe he did this? Yeah, I can believe it because that's all he has ever done. Why are you staying? Right. So we have that
Mhm.
scenario. And then we have people who are afraid of what will happen if they get divorced monetarily. It can be really scary. What was the scariest thing for you in ending this marriage?
Being brutally honest, the scariest thing was being single again. I'm a dating coach. I've been helping women for over 15 years. And I tell them dating can be fun. And I tell them, like you do, that, you can be in control of the process and you can make your choices. And I said control of the process, not control of the people. Just for those of you listening, another podcast, Sandy, we have to cue that one up. You've done it. So I was afraid to be single. Even though I tell women, like I said, all the time, it can be great. It could be good. It'll lead to something happy. You know, I was in a I live in a town, a relatively small town, and it's a beacon it's like magnetic for single older women. It's very artistic. It's very musical. It's actually a great place to be a single woman, not a great place to meet men. Um, but my story is different from them because I was single till I was 47. So I had my single years, right? I had 30 years of dating. And so at 64, to think, oh, I'm going to be dating again, I didn't feel that, oh, goody. Like I finally get to go out and do my thing, I felt like I had done it. So that was scary to me. And I say it's a big deal to share because I had to process sort of feeling a little hypocritical about it, because there I am telling women, no, it's great. You could do it, make it fun, make it interesting, approach with curiosity, all those things that I'm now doing. At the time, it was scary. Uh, and we had in therapy, he asked me once, do I love him or do I love our life together? And at the time I said, I love you, but it wasn't true. I loved our life together. I loved being coupled. And I'm not over the idea of wanting to be coupled. I'm not giving up on that.
I think that's very relatable. I've had clients who were coupled for so long and they live in couple oriented communities where it's really hard for them to go places alone or even to go at all
Mhm.
because they were so used to being a couple. And I've been divorced for 16 years. So and I've had relationships in between, but I'm at a point where I'm not in a relationship and I am proud to not be in a relationship. But it also took me a long time to get there because I only want to be in a relationship with somebody who adds value to my life and who I really want to be with, not because it looks good on paper. I remember doing my TED Talk and thinking, well, I have to end that with a relationship because now everything's perfect. And that's not life. Life is relationships come, they go. Some people are multiply married, some people never get married. I mean, it's all good. It's really how you live with yourself and the peace you make with yourself. And it sounds like you really have processed this. And it is a process. It's not like, oh, I processed, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah. I
And
still have
yeah.
moments. Yeah. I still have moments where I go, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? Is this my life now? Which when I got married, I had years where I would say, oh, is this my life now? How weird after being single so long. So it's really no different.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're living a life that you love in so many ways. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't do. They're
Yeah.
hoping that somehow a man or a woman is going to come and save them. And that's not life. I mean, that's not realistic. And so I appreciate your truth. I appreciate you telling your story because I know that a lot of people judge, and they will judge based on, oh, well, you're a dating coach. You should have stayed in your relationship, or you should be in another one by now, or whatever people make up. And I remember even at the beginning when I was first doing this work, there were people out there who were married and doing the work and as a coach. And people expected every dating coach to be married. And I said, a lot of these married dating coaches have never gone online to date. They
Right.
don't understand that culture. So it's just important to understand who you're working with, not their experience, whether they're married or not. I think it's more important that these people know what they're talking about. And you certainly know what you're talking about. So
I
tell
did
us, yeah.
know. And by the
um,
way, sorry, I just want to say
yeah,
one thing is, from a business perspective, this has been as equally as difficult, right? Because here if you go to my website, my pictures are all with him and talk about my great marriage and how you can find a really good man after 40. And that's so true. But of course, that was like my brand. That's how people knew me. So it took me a few months at least to get the courage to sort of announce the change in my life. And I sent out an email um, to all the women on my list, and the subject of the email was, I am divorced. Got a really high open rate, Sandy. Like people were like, what? I got so much love and so much compassion and so much understanding. And I'm sure there were some women that were like, never mind, which is okay. But I wanted to be really honest. And some women have been like, great, now you can now you can relate to this part of my life too. So yeah, it was hard. I felt like I was coming out, but gosh, the community of women were just gorgeous. They were lovely.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Well, I love that you told the truth, and I love that you got so much support. You
Yeah.
know, it is a beautiful thing, and you have fans, you have people who love you, regardless of whether you're married or divorced.
Yeah.
And I think it should be. You know, how many therapists have terrible relationships with their children, but they give people parenting advice? You know, this you
Yeah.
can do it. You can have a hard time on your own with certain things and not be able to, you know, do this on your own, but do it with other people and vice versa. And you just start, you know, you just got divorced. It's not, people don't expect you to now be in a great relationship. In fact, I would be concerned if you were already in another relationship at this point, because it's so fresh and new.
Yeah.
And there's a lot,
It
we need
is.
to spend some time on our own. And
Yeah.
so tell me about the processing that you've done.
Okay. Um, you know, again, we were in therapy for a year and so excuse me, so it, you know, I had quite a while to do it. Uh the I have certain steps that I want to recommend, but the processing for me has gone from what did I do wrong? Typical, right? And I think there's value in that. I think there's value in looking at the end of a relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever, or looking at the end of a job or whatever, and saying, okay, what was my part? Like, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? So I did that. And of course, during that time, it was a lot of, you know, my feelings were, I failed, I wasn't a good enough wife. And that came from his gaslighting, you know, that came from the cycle of, which I learned, you know, in retrospect. And when my therapist said, you've been gaslit, and I went, what? I said, what do you mean? And here I am coaching women every freaking day about this. And of course it's happening to me. And oh, um, he blamed me for his bad behavior, right? Typical. He behaved badly, and then it was my fault because I'm a bad wife. So I had to process that piece. And that's actually my first biggest piece of advice to women post divorce, post split, whatever. And that's get good with yourself. I had to get help. I had a therapist. I had to get help looking at myself through a new lens and looking at myself not through what he said or anybody else said, but really going back and getting, this sounds so trite, but I'm getting to know myself kind of again. And one thing that was so helpful to me that I really want to share during this time, a therapist, I've been concerned, and this has been since we've moved to Mexico together. I feel like I've gotten smaller. Um, to shorten this very long story, when we lived in the States, it was more of my life, my friends, and he fit in wonderfully. But we moved to Mexico, it was all new. And he was the one, I was still working, so he was the one making friends. And I felt less popular, less interesting, less likable. I started just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. He didn't ask me to, he didn't make me, but I did it. And I never realized it till we split. So I was afraid that my personality has actually changed. And my therapist, when I was talking to her about it, and this was part of my getting good with myself and, you know, becoming self-aware, she said, you're still there. The old Bobbi is still there. She hasn't gone anywhere. And that simple observation was like, yeah, like she's not dead. I thought it was cognitive. I thought, oh, I'm getting older, my personality's changing. But it was my marriage, and it was how we were together in this new environment, and it wasn't working for me. That opened me up to like, here I am. Like I felt like like I'm back,
Mm.
Um, and that was really so effective for me. So that part of the processing is the most important, is really sitting back and going, okay, what's my role? What can I learn? Right. And I did learn certain things that, I've talked about a little bit for sure. And things I won't do again, and I'll do a little differently. But I think the biggest thing was learning who I became in that relationship. And if I wanted to still be her, or if I wanted to be, different, or, and I feel like I'm back. And
Oh,
that has brought so much peace and joy, because now I'm out meeting so many new people and, having fun, and I'm back.
I
It's
love
cool.
that. Well, I want to reflect on that because I think it's so important. Like you said, it's the most important step is to first step back and look at yourself through this new lens. It's so easy to lose yourself in the wrong relationship. And who you become with somebody is everything. What traits do they bring out in you? It's one of my debrief questions is like, who am I in this person's presence? Because,
Mhm.
does that person bring out my humor? Does that person bring out my intelligence? Does that person, what side of me does that person bring out? Because we look so much at the other person. Oh, they have status. Oh, they have a good life. Oh, they have an Ivy League education. None of that matters at all. It's really just the what you become together. It's a separate entity, just like friendships. Different
Yeah.
friends bring out different parts of us. And so in the wrong relationship, we shrink. And again, like you said, he didn't do it to you. It's who we become. And I did it too. I mean, I definitely tried to do everything in my power to stay in a bad relationship because I didn't want to get divorced because my parents were divorced and I thought that was the worst thing you could do. And I accommodated, I chameleoned myself, I shrunk myself. And so a large part of, why I wrote the books that I did, it's all about just finding your voice again. Who are you? Who's buried under there? Because you were there. And that I love what your therapist told you. You were there. You just had to take off
There.
all the layers that got in the way.
Yeah. And yeah, and to be clear, many, many years, and a lot of this did happen when we moved to another country, which makes sense. And so with couples, when your environment changes and when you have big life changes, that's when the challenges are really present, right? Because I always say to women when they ask me, is it too, like, when is it okay to feel really hopeful, like this is really going to work? And my advice to clients and to other women is you have to go through something challenging. Like if you're just dating and having fun all the time, that's not all the data that you need. You need the
Mhm.
data of when your car breaks down, what does he do? You need the data of when your parents get sick, what does he do? Or when you get sick, or when you're really upset about something, who is he? So moving was really a big change for us. And it just turned out we sort of went different ways in what we wanted in our lives. And again, and I think it's important in the process that you be really careful about blaming him for your choices and behavior. I mean, taking oh, that's what he never did. Taking responsibility for your actions and your choices. That's my three principles of dating like a grown-up. The third one is taking ownership and responsibility for your actions and outcomes. That was my that was my choice. I don't think he even liked it. So anyway, that was cathartic. And because I like myself, you know? And I wasn't liking myself the last few years. I
Mm.
wasn't. I was not happy with who I was, and it was scary. It was scary. I thought I was kind of losing myself, but I didn't realize it was because of my marriage, the situation, my marriage.
Yeah. When you're in it, it's hard to have perspective, right? It's
Yeah.
but I love what you said about not blaming your ex for everything because I mean, if you've ever been on a date with somebody who the whole time is complaining about their ex, I mean, to me, there's no bigger turnoff.
Exactly.
Why did the relationship end? Because she was horrible, because
Yeah.
she did this, she took all my money, she. And it's like, okay, those things happened and that sucks. But what about you?
Yeah.
You
Big
know?
red flag. Big
Yeah.
red. Like
Yeah, I
bright
asked
red.
this
Do not
exactly.
go.
Woo, walk away.
Mm.
This guy that I dated a couple months ago on a first date, the only date, I said to him, if your ex was with us here today, why would she say the relationship ended? And he said, oh, that's easy. I cheated on her. And I
Oh,
said,
wow.
oh, okay. Well, thanks for sharing. And he said, well, when I went for therapy, but then he started telling me about how she doesn't talk to him even today, even though he's tried to make amends. And then he has a kid who doesn't talk to him. It was just like, okay, like,
Victim.
yeah. And I get you cheated, you got some therapy. That's great, but it's still perpetuated. And I want to give people a chance. I dated an ex-con once who told me that his crime was like a white collar crime. He took money to pay for his kid's college or something. And he had all these like sob stories. And then I find out that I mean, I looked him up online. He took money for a yacht and some sound
Yeah.
equipment. I'm like, no, I was trying to be kind and give you a chance, but you lied.
Liar, liar.
So yeah, so be good with yourself and be honest. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last FirstDate Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last first date to learn more and claim this offer. You were telling me that there was a couple of steps. So the get good with yourself is step one. Then what happens?
Step two is take your time. So there's this feel. My ex has a girlfriend. And again, we live in this small town. So he's like on Facebook, with his new girlfriend. Younger, not too young, but anyway, somebody that we knew as a couple. And so there's things like that happen that make you kind of want to react, not respond, but react and say, well, I want to be around town with a man, right? I mean, if he's doing it. And also things like, I feel ready, by the way. I feel ready emotionally. And one reason for that in part of the processing is realizing I'm not jonesing for him at all. There's like not an iota of me that says maybe we could work it out or I want to go back. And it's not because I'm so angry and I hate him. It's just that I get that it's just wrong. But taking your time to do that processing, to get good with yourself, to make changes, and this rolls to my third step, which is take new action, to make changes that set you up to be really ready to date in a grown-up way, in a healthy way, in a happy way. So being really clear about what you want, what you don't want, the work that we do with our clients, right, Sandy?
Mhm.
And not going out there to date until you feel really, I mean, this is big picture, of course, but until you're really clear about what you have to offer and how fabulous you are and what you absolutely need in order to be happy, right? What do you need to be happy? And that could be like right now, I've had one date. Right now, I get so much happiness and joy from doing volunteer work and from hanging with my girlfriends and from listening to music and things like that. So take your time and make sure that you're ready to add that to your life. And in some ways, not just add a new relationship, but add the process of dating to your life. Because because as much as we help people with managing rejection, we know it's tough. I mean, there's moments where it can feel like it chips away at your self-esteem. But you have to make sure it's only a moment, sort of that human moment where you go, eh, as opposed to letting it undo the work that you've been doing. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
100%. I mean, I think that reframing rejection, being able to have some new skills around what the expectations are, managing your expectations out there and knowing that, yeah,
Boundaries.
boundaries are really important. Setting
Mhm.
your boundaries, not letting yourself be the victim, where you're passive and waiting for men to do all the things, and then you're waiting and waiting and feel like you can't make any first moves. I mean, there's just so many things that shift, especially as we get older and we're out there dating again. I totally agree with you. I think being clear about who you are, how amazing you are, like what your skill set is, what your wonderfulness is. It's like if you're walking around thinking, I'd be so lucky if somebody picks me because I'm not so great, that's not a good place to date from.
Go
The
back
other
to
thing,
step one.
yes, go back to step one. I just interviewed somebody who she was on a couple of weeks before this airs, and she talked about the science and biology of dating and love. And she talked a lot about oxytocin in other forms, where we want to get all of our chemical supply from one person, from this special person who's going to be everything. And she said that's, first of all, it's like 10 people, not one person. We're hoping that this one person is going to provide us with everything we need. And so sourcing your oxytocin from your animals, your friends, your volunteer work, getting all of that supply so you're filled up and you're like glowing with it, then that other person who comes into your life is the icing on the cake. This is the person that's going to add value, not be the whole value.
No, and getting over that is aside from post-divorce, right? I mean, that's just unfortunately, as women, so many of us have to do that work because of, our family of origin, because of our experiences. I mean, all that bullshit that what we're supposed to be versus who we are and all that. So really it is true. Like, you may think you're ready, go out there, have a date, really do a good job. Like you said, do a good job debriefing and figuring out how you felt and who you feel you are. And if you need to go back to step one, there's nothing wrong with that. If you think you're ready and and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm almost validating step one. Right. So I'm like, yeah, I feel ready. And again, I look forward, and it could be a week, it could be 10 years from now. I look forward to having another love affair. But um, but if it takes away from my joy and my feeling of safety and my feeling of being a confident woman, then fuck it. I'm going back to step one and hanging there, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah, which is basically where I am right now, because a lot of the people that I have met have not been people that I would want to spend that kind of time with. They take away from my life instead of adding to this fabulous life that I've created. And we all get to make those choices.
Yeah.
So, did we finish with the steps?
No.
Oh,
Are you kidding?
okay.
There's 100 more.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. So step one is get good with you. Step two is take your time. Step three is take new action. So it's not just about going out and starting a date. That new action should be what brings you joy, and really figure out if that's going out with your girlfriends, like maybe like for me, I stayed home a lot at first. Plus, like, I was really sick, and right after we decided to split, I almost died. Like, about that.
Yeah.
So I was home alone. I was sort of hiding and that happens. We need that. But yeah, make plans with your girlfriends. Really enjoy it. Like you said, I joined an animal sanctuary board. I've got my 3 cats, that are looking at me right now going, when are you coming back to pet us? Find your joy. And if it's not in your life right now, take new action really consciously and deliberately. That's step 3. And step 4 is pay attention to men. You've been with somebody a long time. And if you're like me, I was really devoted, what a shock. I wasn't looking at other guys. I wasn't fantasizing about other men. I saw some, I'd look at it. There's some Mexican men that are, oh my God, they're just beautiful. They're just beautiful. But I never went to what would it be like to be with him? Or it was just appreciating the beauty. So now, as I meet men, um, I have to pay more attention and think about how do I feel when I'm with him? How does he make, I met a guy the other day. He's a big guy. He's balding, really active in the music scene here. The music scene here is amazing, by the way. Really active in the music scene, does a lot of volunteering. I paid attention to who he was as a person. And I actually messaged him last night. Granted, I did have a glass of tequila before I did it. I messaged him last night and asked if he wanted to go to lunch. I've not heard back from him yet. He may not get back to me, He's very well known again, we're in a small town. But I went, what the heck? I'm going to give this a try because I just loved his personality and I feel good with him. So pay attention now. You are not attached to someone, and go out and have some fun. And that's sort of a good way to approach dating too. It's just with curiosity, with fun, with like, I'm going to try this. He's like the third guy I've reached out to. And I got to say, the other two did not take the bait. And I had the moment of like, wow, maybe I'm not as cool as I think I am. But I processed it the way I said, okay, what would you tell your clients to do, Bobbi? And I processed it. I took a breath. I thought about what's true. That did not mean there was something wrong with me, just that they're wrong for me, and, move on. So that's step 4, pay attention. And the last step, finally, is get online if you need to. If you're not meeting men, online dating is still based on where you live and what your life is like. And if you get out and meet people, get online. I have a benefit of living in this small town that has a lot of music and art and group events. I'm going to a party on Saturday night. My first one as a single girl. I'm a little nervous. I admit I'm a little nervous. Probably everyone will be married. It'll be weird, but I'm doing it. But so I'm meeting people. If you can't meet people IRL, then, get online. I set up a Bumble profile, and I haven't swiped yet.
Okay. It's a first step.
It's the first step. But it's because I'm meeting people, just out and about. And if that dries up, which it likely will because of the town I'm in, then yeah, I'm gonna Bumble and find guys that speak English. Country. My Spanish isn't good enough yet to use it for dating.
Well, I love that you're being bold out there and making these connections. So many people are afraid to do what you did.
Yeah.
And it takes courage because people come across our stratosphere all the time. Like if we look around us, there are tons of people walking around all the time. I just joined these gyms, and there was this really cute guy one day who looked over while I was in a really weird pose in Pilates. And
I love it.
he's like looking through the window. He's on his like little workout machine, and he was really cute. And he smiled at me. I smiled at him, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of class. I'm not going to walk out and go, hey, what's your name?
Yeah.
And by the time I got out of class, I had to run to do a podcast and I couldn't stop. And every day I've been looking for him because I want to make a connection with this guy. He was so cute. But gym is actually one of the top ways that people meet. And people say all the time, I don't see any new people. I mean, belonging to organizations, volunteering, getting out there. I just did a whole series of videos on not just how to meet people online, but how to make romantic connections with the people you're meeting, because most people would not say, hey, how do you want to do lunch sometime? Just even in the conversation, what are the things you like? Oh, I like that too. Hey, would you like to do that together someday?
Yeah.
it's scary, it's vulnerable, but you miss all the chances you don't take. And I have missed chances in the past, and I just encourage everybody to do what Bobbi did.
Thank you. And I tell my clients that I would rather have you, and so many years when I was married, I would say something to him and he would say, "Is that how you would tell your clients to talk to their men?" Like he'd throw it against me that I'm a dating coach. But now I'm trying to really self-coach. And one of the things that I tell my clients, which I'm trying to live, is I would rather have you try and not get a, ideal response than always question what would have happened if you had tried, right? And that goes for life, right? That's life in general. But if you really, like me, if you've decided you want to be coupled, right? If you're really, and that's in step one, if you've decided, I really liked it when it was good. I really liked it. And it was good for a long time. So that's something you want to keep in front of you and remind yourself that's your freaking goal. And even though things may be a little scary, and even though, there may be things that you do that are dumb or feel awkward or whatever, be you, you be you. But if you don't do those things, that goal is never going to be reached.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Yeah, do it. Do it. And I think that, keeping that goal in mind, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. But if it is important to you, you have to prioritize it. And you can't just sit at home and watch Netflix all day, really, because that sounds like a really good option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know so many people who are like, yeah, I just need to do one more thing before I get out there again. I know the 10 pounds lost, just get that online profile. I got to work on this. I got to work on that. I got to take one more course. And it's all like just you're hiding and you're afraid. And what is the fear? Like, I would encourage whoever is thinking like that to interrogate the truth of what you're saying. Like, is this really true? And like you said before, when you were trying to work through the rejection piece, what's the truth in this? And when you start doing that, this elusive fear that feels so big, it just shrinks down to, oh, it's nothing.
Yeah. No, next.
Yeah.
That's the magic word, right? Next.
Yeah. Keep moving on. So
There's this
Bobbi,
one guy though, Sandy. There's this one guy. I just got to tell you, there's this one
yeah.
guy. He was so cute. He has this gorgeous dog. We talked just, walking in the street. And we were talking about all these people moving to San Miguel de Allende. And I said, just my ex-husband's here. He said, my ex-husband's here. That's enough. And he says, my ex-wife's here too. And I thought, ooh, ex-wife. So cute. And his dog was gorgeous German Shepherd. And I said, damn, why don't they just freaking move? I mean, do us a favor. And we had this great conversation. And he's one of the guys that didn't respond back. I found out, like, he's in Brazil. He lives in Brazil part-time. He's not here right now. So if I had gone through that whole cycle of like, oh, he was so cute and I thought we had a great conversation and why didn't he probably thought I was too this or not enough that. Yeah, the guy was like in another country. So don't waste your time doing that. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, but I hope when he comes back, he gets in touch. I must admit, like that gym guy. Yeah. Your gym guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
No. I mean, like, you meet these gorgeous people, you have a connection. It's this brief moment. I mean, years ago, I was on a blind date with somebody I met online in New York City, and I was sitting at a restaurant waiting for him. He was late. And it was one of these restaurants where there are benches on one side and seats on the other. And so I was on the bench side, and there was this guy sitting next to me waiting for his date. We started talking, had a great conversation, and then his date showed up, and then my date showed up, and I never got his information. And I regretted it because he just seemed like a really cool guy. I liked him a lot better than my date. And so I actually did something after that. I made up these little cards with my first name and my Google Voice number. And I made them up specifically to give out to people I would meet, just like in the old fashioned 1800s when people had calling cards. I'm like, hey, drop a handkerchief give a calling card.
Yep.
So Bobbi, we could talk forever. I want to know, what are your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date, especially after divorce? And you just mentioned, keep that goal in mind, but I'm wondering if you have other great advice to share.
Over and above what I've talked about, that doing the processing and doing the work before you get out there, I think is really, really important. You've got to be, you've got to be really sturdy before you go out there, if that's what you want. If that's what you want, it's okay if it's not. I'm thinking of, something brilliant that I haven't mentioned before, and I'm just not there, Sandy. I really want to encourage women to get really clear on what's going to make you happy. I think that's it. Really focus on what will make you happy. Being coupled, is that what you want? Not being, is that what you want? And remember, it's like right now. You could change your mind tomorrow, but you have to be very consciously focusing on that.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of times it's societal. Like, we think we should be coupled, or
Yeah.
other people think we should be coupled. And other people have lots of ideas about how we should live our lives. It's amazing. If we left it to other people to choose the careers we have, the people we date, we'd be pretty miserable. And a
Yeah.
lot of people live their lives that way. It's all how it looks and not how it feels. And you mentioned the feeling part before, and I think that is so important. How do you feel in this person's presence? How do you feel right now? Maybe you don't have the bandwidth for dating, and that's absolutely fine. It can be exhausting. I can attest to that. And especially if you don't vet properly and you just keep going on bad dates, and it's just, you're sharing your life, you're hopeful again and again and again. And if that's not what you want, find what does make you happy. Do things like Bobbi mentioned, volunteer work, get some pets, do reconnect with girlfriends or make new ones. I mean,
Yeah. Watch Bridgerton.
that's,
Sorry, but
that? Oh, watch Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. Sorry, but that's not a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
totally.
and remember too, and this is kind of the hard part after divorce, there are a lot of really good men out there. There really are. Um, it's up to you to find them and attract them and to make good choices. It's not up to the men. It's up to you.
Mm.
So work with your dating coach. Yeah, there you go.
That's right. Work with your dating coach to figure out if this person's actually good for you or not, and to change your attraction, because so many of us are attracted to all the wrong things. So fix the picker.
Yep.
So Bobbi, tell everybody your website and how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, my website is datelikeagrownup.com. I'm in the process of updating it, so it's all about my marriage and my great relationship, and it was all true. I want that to be said. I mean, it was all true, and there's 150 plus articles in there for you. And then I'm also going to give you some more information about dating after divorce. So you can go to datelikeagrownup.com/DAD, dating after divorce, not dad, DAD. For some more advice and a little more detail about what we talked about today.
Awesome. And you might want to date a dad, so it's an easy way to remember. You may want to date somebody who's not a dad.
Okay.
It's all up to you. So go ahead to that URL, datelikeagrownup.com/DAD, and get that information from Bobbi. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was so helpful, I think, for people who they could be divorced 5 minutes or 16 years. It's good information for anybody to really heal and get good with yourself. I think that step is just so important, and all of the steps. So follow Bobbi's advice.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thanks everybody for listening today. If you love our show, please give us a high rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and share the podcast with friends. The more the merrier. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.